Welcome to episode 9. I'm calling it Getting Misty About ISTE because it's getting late at night and I'm getting a little slap happy. So, first, disclosure. I don't like the ISTE standards. I think they're not standards, I think they're aspirations. And I think the notion of aspirational standards is, oxymoronic. Second, I think that there's a lot of psychology and philosophy, particularly epistemology, that is underneath the standards as they're articulated from 2016 that isn't actually getting critiqued enough. But that's not this video. This video is the bullet point for explain how these non-negotiable constructs from the previous videos into courses can demonstrate and reflect my growth within the standards for educators and how they meet the standards for students. I'll take the students first. So, if you're learning from me and I am doing things that are taking an expansive approach, doing your building in conversational turn taking in triangulated assessment that builds for sense making, well, it's knowledge construction. Okay. That discussion of real world issues, 3D, right? It's working collaboratively, right? Examining issues from multiple viewpoints, 7B. If we are designing for conversational turn taking and I'm intentionally teaching you how to comment as a genre and we're building for accreted elocutionary conversational turn taking, that is all of creative communicator. Obviously, if we're working and I'm actually managing to get someone to be engaged, that's digital citizenship with their online identity, their identity within the course, right? The only way that all of this plays together is if they are showing positive, safe, and ethical behavior towards each other online in the mediated conversations and upon the media that we're working with. So that's the standards. My development as a teacher. Standard 1 for educators is learner. And I think this really comes back to Milton Meyerhoff and care. That if we're genuinely learning about our students and looking to see things from their side, if we're listening, if we're being honest, and our assessment procedures and conversation turn taking actually allow for honesty, then I think increasing the knowledge of your users, the knowledge of your teachers and your colleagues in a professional development sense, what their concerns are, what their commitments are, what problems and urgent concerns they're attending to the most. I think that has to happen. And I think naturally outgrowing from that is collaborator. I think standard 6, facilitator, is wrong. More so wrong than the computational thinking standard for the students. And I think that perhaps we should consider not necessarily making it a standard that students think in terms of ways of making problems easier for computers to understand. But facilitator for a teacher, what goes on in a classroom, whether the space, the social space, sociocognitive space is in person and allowing for micro expressions, whether in really, really easy group, ad hoc, ephemeral group formation and dissolution, and those sorts of conversational turn taking that we're also familiar with and wired for, or whether it's online. I don't think that that can be reduced to facilitation. Not an original idea. None of my thinking is original. Right there. Manifesto for teaching online. Online teaching should not be downgraded to facilitation. And so, like I said, I think that I have a lot of problems with the assumptions epistemologically, ontologically, of these standards. But you want me to talk about them? So I'll talk about them. I think analyst, again, gets to that notion of triangulated assessment and understanding it. But you have to understand your assessments through that lens of care and through that lens of moving your students from the peripheral of their skills and their understandings more towards a core group for engagement, for paying attention, for noticing patterns, for crossing those threshold concepts. There are those conceptual thresholds. All of this within collaboration. And the keynote about collaboration is that keynote of reciprocity, right? Which gets back to student citizenship, right? You can't build for collaboration in your students. You can't build for communication within or your colleagues and your faculty without there being some sense of positive, socially responsible contribution. And here I'm quoting directly from the ISTE Citizen Standard Subpart A. So that's ISTE. I hate it. I think that it has an agenda and it presents itself as objective and what needs to happen. And I think it undercuts a lot of the history of what has been done before. So I'm going to get off of this soapbox.